Hello, everybody, and welcome to Athletic Definition. My name is Coach Ray Z, and today my name is Karen Rangel. Um,
Hello.
First time on Fireside. Welcome. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for inviting me in your space.
Oh, no problem. Uh, the reason I invited you is because you have a podcast, and I've been listening to it. It's very interesting. I can hear your passion. Uh, I wanted to just have people who do impact, and I see what you're doing with the youth. But I always kind of like to start in the beginning. When you were young, listening to your podcast, I heard you mention how you love sports. That was like the one thing that it was on performance, and it didn't really matter if your intellect, and it made you feel like unstoppable, and it helped you gain confidence. I wanted you to kind of touch on sports and what it did for you growing up.
Well, I highly recommend to move your body because when you move your body, it just sends all these happy endorphins. I feel like it, at least for me. And at a young age, I for those that don't know, I was born with the speech impediment, with the stutter, and it went away with lots of therapy. But I knew with my learning disabilities that sports and doing track, cross country, and soccer had nothing to do with how smart I was. Like you said, intellectual, right? And I remember when I would do sports, I would focus on my goals, right? What are the goals that I wanted to achieve? What are the things I wanted to make happen in my life? So when I was competing, I was chasing those goals. So for me, sports was everything for me because I've always had, okay, all my PRs. I need to meet this. I need to meet this other thing. Or even in weightlifting, I always made it happen because behind my head, I had it. If I knock this down, that means I'm closer to my ultimate goal. And it could be anything. It could be either dreams, aspirations. At the time, I wanted to become a lawyer, or maybe I wanted to reach a certain scholarship that I wanted. So if I gave up in working out or a specific rep, then I was giving up on my dream. That's how I saw it. And for me, sports was everything because it really like helped me realize how confident I was and how I didn't give up. It taught me resiliency, really, in playing as a team and how much fight you have. Because even sometimes when I'm ready to like throw the towel, I'm like, oh, come on, Karen, you remember that time that you ran and you were focused on this? You made it happen. So it takes me back to that. And I feel like that's something that you're able to control because it's all about your mindset. I feel like it.
No, it definitely has to do with your mindset and the discipline that you can get if you don't have any through working out and sports. And I haven't, since you're early in your podcasting, I didn't really get to hear too much about in high school. In high school, did you continue playing sports as well?
Absolutely. All throughout my till this day I still play sports. But yeah, it was all throughout high school, college. In high school, I was a year-round athlete, so I did track, cross country, and soccer. And the reason I did all sports was to really focus in soccer. I may have not been like your best dribbler, but I was the fastest. So speed for me was like the number one.
Got it. And I maybe some people joining in or listening around on the broadcast may not be aware, but you went through some bullying, and you mentioned the speech impediment. I know when I was younger, I had a speech impediment too. I actually completely forgot about it till I heard your episode. Uh, I I used to get made fun of, and people used to tell me that I ended my words with a "s" at the end, but I didn't recall that, and I completely kind of forgot about it. And I remember being bullied and being picked on, and uh, the only thing that kind of helped me fit in was sports, but I wasn't very good at sports, but I just felt happy when I was running around and just being a kid. So for me, that helped me develop my confidence, trying to, just learn and organize sports because my parents were too busy working. They didn't have time to like even go to my games. They were just busy parents working, running their own business. And, you know, how much of an impact did, the sports have on your confidence?
I think everything really, because I feel that with sports, when you start anything, it's a challenge, right? But the more you stick to it, the better you become. And that's where I think that is the beauty within sports, that when you stay inconsistent and you do the same thing over and over and over, we only get better and stronger. So for me, sports was everything for me because I really felt like I was unstoppable. If I wasn't good at it, like in school, if I wasn't good at getting these grades because of my learning disabilities, I call them now flexibilities because I get to be flexible and figure out what other ways I can make this happen. But sports really taught me, like, hey, Karen, just because you're not good at one thing, that doesn't mean you're not bad in all other areas in your life. Like, look at sports. But sports, I feel like for me was like the number one thing that helped me, and even till this day helps me. I go outside, I start running, I forget about everything that's happening in my life. In that moment, it's me and whatever I'm reaching towards. Whether if it's running for me, I started running a lot, cross country. I gave it up for a little bit for a while, and then I got back to it again. But I think sports is everything. So if you have kids, like, put them in anything. It doesn't matter. Get them curious because it really, really supports them. Because a lot of times, if kids give up, they take it back to the field. I remember how challenging this was, and I can make it happen. Right?
Yeah, yes, and I know that you're a youth coach, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on here right now. Uh, I keep seeing depression numbers going up and youth being lost, and we need some more positive uh, apps like Fireside, because a lot of them are just showing unhealthy pictures of what's not realistic for young men or women. And is that one of the reasons why you gear towards youth, or is there something else kind of driving that?
Yes. Well, growing up, just like your parents, my parents were also very busy. So we were six siblings. How many did you have?
We were small. I was number three.
You were three siblings. So we were six. So in a Mexican household, you have six siblings. Everybody's busy. Parents are worried about what they're going to put on the table, right? As long as there's food and a roof over our heads, that's all that mattered at the time. So, um, I feel that as I got older, I started realizing a lot of things I was missing in my household, either the way my parents up like raised us, and what was missing for me if I had a coach at the time, knowing of the way my learning style was, that I was not a child walking around empty in this world, that I was not a child who was just a nobody, because at a young age all I wanted to do was fit in, right? But when you're in a special need child, you're separated from everybody else. So when that happens and you grow up, you start believing that there's something different about you, and all you want to do is fit in with the crowd. So what happened with me, I started doing a lot of work. And when I say work, it's personal development, mental health. And I strongly agree that, especially now more than ever, people are seeking that, are seeking, especially with the pandemic, with everything that happened, right? People are seeking, what do I need to do? How do I get out of this anxiety or this depression and all of these things? Because, man, what happens in our brain, it's constantly going thoughts and thoughts and thoughts, millions of thoughts. But how can we control these thoughts and create them where it's going to empower us versus disempowering us? So when I started working with the youth, I said, man, if only I had a coach that said, hey, Karen, just because you come from special need classes, that doesn't mean you get to give up. That doesn't mean that these dreams that you have, that you will make them happen. Actually, you will. And you know what? You have drive. You're resilient. You don't give up. And so I created this program because I felt these are the things that were missing for me when I was a child. Insecurities, right? Either it could be body image as well, anything. So I designed this whole workshop and I said, okay, for parents that don't even know how to have these conversations with their kids and raise children that are conscious, how I'm going to be able to provide these tools for them so that they can grow up being unstoppable, so that they can grow up and tap into that inner warrior within us or that inner giant within. I feel like we all of us have an inner giant within. Sometimes it's sleeping, but hey, it's time to wake that inner giant within because it's ready to go out there and create miracles in the world.
That is such a positive attitude to have, and I love what you're doing with the youth, and we need more people like that. And just kind of looking at your website, do you travel and do this nationwide with the kids?
Yeah, so I live in San Diego and I started my workshop here. It's the business is called youthfit2lead. And this specific workshop that I started is a self-love workshop called Glowing Within. In that workshop, we focus all on it's all self-love, teaching teenage girls what does it mean to love yourself, accept who you are, right? So we started here in San Diego, and then I bring the workshops in other areas. So then I had inquiries, hey, Las Vegas, why don't you come and do a workshop in Las Vegas? So then I bring it to Las Vegas. It is a challenge because we don't do any marketing. It's more of a word of mouth kind of thing. Um, so yes, the goal is to go to different states and bring this. I do go to Mexico. I design workshops for teenagers and for youth. I mean, for our toddlers, our little ones. So I designed another workshop. It's called Discover Your Inner Superhero, and that one specifically, I'm going to Mexico. In that one, I go and deliver it, and it's super fun. Kids are able to discover their superhero powers and what's their mission in the world. Just like superheroes have a mission, they have a mission too. So we deliver that to orphanages, and I fundraise money to go deliver like soccer cleats, bouncy balls, soccer balls, any fitness equipment because I think movement is everything. So, and we go and deliver this whole awesome program to the kids.
Wow, that's awesome. And how often do you go over to Mexico? Is that a annual trip or?
Yeah, so far it's been once a year where I do this big thing and I don't sell I tell my parents just come with me and celebrate Christmas with me like give because I believe that the secret of living is giving. So during the holidays for me it just breaks my heart noticing knowing that I'm obviously Latina, my parents are Mexican, and I I want to be there where families mostly need the help and the support. So for me, it's a thing that I've made it every year. Even last year when COVID hit, I didn't know what that was going to look like. My business, there's a huge shift in my business and everything, and I made it happen. I fundraised money, thanks with everybody that donated, and I went out there and delivered the whole workshop and donated to the kids. But that was a challenge one because no one wanted to come because obviously the pandemic just hit. But I wasn't gonna allow that to stop me. I'm like, okay, it's only me. As long as I'm safe and I'm taking care of myself, I know I have a mission. So the man above is gonna support me in this, and I'm just gonna just go to hold me back. So, and we made it happen, and I came back safe and healthy. So, yeah.
That's great, and I'm sure the kids were thrilled to see you as well, especially that you're doing it for orphanages. And you mentioned the holidays and being Mexican, and they are here, and it's tamale season for us. So what are you doing for the holidays to try and stay in shape and burn off those calories that we're going to be consuming probably I think next week already.
Yes, well, this is what I'm doing. Like right now, even when I want to have a little snack, I say I'm gonna have a little bite. But when the holidays comes, it's good to splurge. It's good to really give yourself that treat because you've been nourishing your body this whole entire time. You've been taking care of it, right? So it's okay to have a little. And what I do when I serve my plates, I just have a little bit of everything, just to like taste everything, and not and like not be like, oh my God, I wish I could have the whole pie. But if I have the whole pie, then that's all the calories, right? So I just eat a little bit of everything to get a little taste and savor all the delicious food.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know who I picked it up from, but they're like, it's not a cheat meal, it's a treat meal, and I like that better. That way, you don't feel like you're punishing yourself, and a lot of it has to do with the way we do our self talk. So it's a treat meal instead of a cheat meal.
Absolutely.
And so, dealing with the kids, and you mentioned COVID. How difficult was that? Did besides going to the orphanage in Mexico, did you just like completely stop like everybody and have to rebuild? Because I know a lot of people are going through that right now. A lot of us had to reinvent ourselves, or we were already thinking about our passion, and we're like, you know what, it's not enough. I need to do more. And is that part of the reason why you started your podcast?
Yeah, well, story short is last year COVID hit, right? And for those that don't know, I used to own a gym on wheels. So imagine a bus, and inside the bus, there's rock climbing, zip lining, slides coming out of the windows, and every week we rotated it because we go to different schools. So we brought personal development, leadership through fitness, because I design games where teens are able and youth are able to tap in and see, what type of leader are you? How do you show up in the world? Are you someone that takes a step back, allows other people to use their voice? So they really get to see how they play the game is how they play the game of life. So that business, California passed the law and it shut down because by 2030 they want us to go green. So that was my bus, and I had to sell it to a different state. It went to an amazing organization, Boys and Girls Club. But that forced me to start this whole new business. And for me, it was a challenge because, as business owners, that when you hit that place where there's now you start seeing everything in fruition, all your hard work is finally paying off. And then that happened to me. I was like, oh my God. So I started this whole new business, and here I am. I'm starting again. It's like digging that big old hole, and it's all messy, right? So that's where I'm at. And I know that everybody has their challenges and everything, but this is, they say one door closes, another one opens. I say one door closes and a wider one opens, because I learned so much from my last one that now I get to see, okay, this is how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it a little bit different now. So, yeah, it was challenging, but you know what? Those challenges are things that I look at and say, okay, if I'm able to make this happen, I'm only going to rise up even stronger and more powerful. And that's why I started my podcast, because I always felt like at such a young age, I always had so much to say, right? And I love connecting with people. I love hearing people's stories. And when I hear people's stories, and I always say, if your why makes you cry, I want to share your story with everybody, because I feel like everybody has something amazing to share, something amazing that I can learn from, and then you can learn from. And together we can bring all of these juicy stories and inspire so many people. And I think for me, starting the podcast is really getting out of my comfort zone, and just sharing my story, because as I speak little by little, it was my first time delivering my disabilities and talking all about it, where for a long time that was a secret. And then I inspire people with it, and I finally just let it out. But I feel like a lot of times we have so many awesome stories to share, but in our heads, others say, that's an amazing story. But in our heads, we're thinking, oh no, I don't want anybody to know about that. But I think we put so much pressure to all of that, and which takes away from lessons to be learned for other people. And I think that's where the freedom is, when you allow yourself to just let go and just speak from your heart.
Yeah, so I've heard your podcast, and I can definitely hear the passion and just the honesty. And um, I know from me starting my podcast journey, I've come a long way, and I have a lot more to go, and definitely open up and listening sometimes to shows. I remember things that I forgot about as in my childhood. You know, I'm like, oh, that's right. Like listening to your podcast, I had forgotten that. You know, being born here, I learned Spanish first because my mom and dad spoke Spanish, and I learned English as my second language, and that's maybe where I got my speaking disability at the time, where I was twisting my words and kind of like an not a diagnosed dyslexia, and then I had to be held back or flunked third grade, and I remember just knowing that everybody is going to know that I flunked and see me in a different grade. And uh, maybe for a long, long time, that was something that did bother me. But now that doesn't bother me. In fact, I forgot about it. And maybe me speaking about it, someone out there hearing it, it could help them out. Uh, yeah, I mean, it's okay. It's all right. I went to a really small school, so there was maybe about 30 people per class because I went to private school.
Mm.
And so they knew you flunked once they see you. There was no hiding. I remember you telling your story about how you avoided them for a long time, but I got caught right away. And in a way, it was better because it was just the cat was out of the bag. Um, but I like the way you just, even after you got caught, you weren't okay with your reply, and how you just want to be honest. And your podcast definitely comes through, and that's part of the reason why I brought you on here. I think you would be a great addition to Fireside as well.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
check it out.
and so what are your plans? I know you're barely getting started with this, and since you're kind of just pivoting from where you were, your business, is this just what you want to do, or do you want to grow your podcast more, or do you want to kind of be like a multi what would you call it? I'm not even sure, but back in the day when I was growing up, the only people that were okay to do more than one career would be like actors. They could be directors and writers. And I remember telling my friend, "Oh, I want to do this and do that." They're like, "You can't do that." And I'm like, "Well, why not? Like, why is it only in the entertainment industry that you can do more than one thing, but everything else you have to be labeled?"
Exactly. I think that, you know what, everything is possible. And if there's passion and there's dreams, I always say go for it. Don't let it just be a dream, you know, and live your dream. Um, I I feel like the podcast is something that I want to focus on, and I want to make it grow. I didn't know it was so it was so hard. Like I'm over here trying to record myself on video to do like put it on YouTube, right? Because I'm like my friends are saying, Karen, you must put it on YouTube. We would love to see your videos. And then I'm like, and then you got to record at the same time your voice, and there's just like all these moving parts. And then I run my business, and it's like but I think really is being kind to myself and knowing that I'm doing the best that I can, and being consistent and being very strategic with everything. But yeah, I do want to continue growing my podcast and see where that goes. Um, because I feel like you can inspire, like, or not even that, but just touch more people, right? Because I can stay in my little hut here in San Diego, but that's not really going to touch as many lives as possible. And now with podcasts, it's like everybody is either in their car driving, they're listening to something. You never know. So yeah, I think the podcast is, it sounds great. and I like doing it. I haven't tried it where I can invite people yet. Cause I'm like, I wonder if I will be good at that, or the questions will start coming up. Um, so yeah, but I do plan to bring in people. Yes.
Yeah, the challenges of learning how to podcast, and then in a way, the way you're doing it, having to, in my opinion, having to speak uh, to yourself basically on a mic is harder to do than when you have a guest. With a guest, you could kind of have conversation and go back and forth, and you don't have to be talking the whole time. So uh, I've done both, and then I find it harder when I'm by myself, but I sometimes guests have to cancel, and then I'm like, oh, I don't want to not do the show. So now I try and have things prepared in case someone cancels, and it could just, it's quite an adventure, but I love it so far. And Fireside makes it easy, and yeah, this makes it so much easier for the video as well. So hopefully, you look into Fireside more. And um, as far as like if people wanted to reach you or maybe donate to your cause in Mexico, is it only the website?
Yeah, Youth Fit to Lead. So on our website or either PayPal, Youth Fit to Lead, Venmo, PayPal. Yes, that'll be
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
And then we never mentioned the name to your podcast.
Oh yeah. Yes. The name of my podcast is Keeping It Real with Karen Rangel. You know about those Karens, right?
How did you? I was gonna ask you about that. How did you feel when that happened? Or like,
Well,
oh no, my name is Bert.
yeah, well, which is funny because I don't go to at the time like last year. It's just recently that I started to get onto the social media thing. I'm like that interesting dinosaur it's now coming out of the shell and now getting into this whole social media thing. But when I heard like this, what's up with these Karens and everything, man, I would get friends hitting me up like, "Hey, are you good?" Like there's a lot of going on with your name right now, and I was a little confused. And then I researched it. I was like, oh my god, there's all these videos. And then just recently, I was at the grocery store, and this man right in front of me went off on this woman. He's like, "Don't you be a damn Karen!" And I was like scared. I looked at him. I'm like, "I am so sorry, sir. What did I do?" Totally forgot about these Karens. And he's like, "No, that Karen." And then I'm like, "I'm Karen." But I'm the Karen of love, not the commotion of love, not anything else you got going on over there. But I think I make it a joke now. I said, I'm gonna be that Karen that's gonna change shit around. I'm gonna inspire. I'm gonna be the Karen that gives of love and just like because at the end of the day it sounds pretty funny. So when I came up with the name Keeping It Real with Karen, it's almost like Karen's no one wants to listen to a Karen. So I show up, hello guys, this is Karen and I'm gonna keep it real with you. This is what's happening.
Yeah, I never seen the show where Karen evolved from because I didn't have Netflix, but it didn't take me long to figure out what it was, and I was like, oh, I feel bad for all the Karens that I know. It's like they're all just kind of being labeled, but I like the way you're taking it. You're gonna take it and remix it and be the Karen of love, as you mentioned. What you're everybody's best friend.
Yeah. I was like, yes, I think it's funny, right? Like now I could there's a lot of people that could either take it very negative, but I am a type of person that tries to see everything in a positive way of seeing thinking, because I think that's the best way of living. I think the other way it's too much stress and it creates unhealthy things to our bodies. So yeah, let's where are all my Karens at?
And to anyone listening in, I went ahead and put a Karen's podcast link on the fortune cookie, and also to her website if you're interested in maybe getting you deal with kids from 13 to 18. I was reading.
Yeah, so right now we're dealing with teenagers, and but I also have a workshop that I designed. It's called the Discover Your Inner Superhero workshop. I haven't posted it on my on youthfit2lead account just because that was a part of my other business that I just sold. But I still have the all the rights of that workshop, and yeah, I'm gonna bring it back. So that one is pretty awesome because it's the same thing. You can go to different areas and host these type of workshops for kids.
And I really love that idea of the bus. I didn't even know you had all that in there, the zip line and rock climbing. Are you thinking of going green and doing that again?
That is the dream. And I know that my friends will say, Karen, you always make the impossible possible. You make it happen. Like, why are you gonna let this thing stop you? But I'm like, come on, $300,000 I have to come up with to purchase this green bus. That's a lot of money. I'm like, but then they say, why don't you come up with a fund me? I was like, I don't want to do a fund me. Maybe I don't know. We'll see what happens. But it was a very awesome business too because we would go to underserved communities and we would provide this for free for the kids. So parents don't have income to provide have something amazing like this. It's only people that come from money that would pay for this. But I would go and have this and build community spirit, and then the city found out about me and they said, let's pay this girl and let's make this even bigger. So then that's what started happening, and then this whole thing closed down. So I do want to bring it back. Is it going to look a little bit different? I believe so. I'm thinking of having more like a tour bus kind of deal where we go to different schools, like travel across the country. I don't even know what that's going to look like. See, I have big dreams. Karen has big dreams and all these things, but I need like a team behind me to help me because there's just so much you can do, right? And if you want to execute and do it right, I think one thing at a time. But yeah, my dream is to have like motivator speakers and come to schools and teach kids about the different like fitness and moving your body. Because you tell a kid now to go run a lap, they're gonna say you're crazy. So how can you make it fun and exciting?
Yes, yes, and you know, oh man, the kids need to move around a lot. My nephews are guilty of being the video game generation, and I try not to be really hard on them because then they're gonna want to do it more. And I did play video games growing up. I kind of grew out of it. Maybe now I'll play here and there, like an NBA game or something, but not really. The only thing I just don't see the younger people doing is a balance. They're just on that council the whole time. That they're not going outside. They're not playing. They're not exercising for just a little bit. You know, I'm always encouraging that, and uh, you know, I saw what you were doing, so we need people, and this is my way where I could spotlight, throw flowers, and just show people who are out there doing good. Um, I felt one of the reasons I had this idea many years ago for my podcast, and I felt there was a responsibility that if you had a good idea, something positive, to share it with the world, and finally, Fireside gave me the ease to do it, and I'm just hoping that having people like you and other of my past guests will make an impact at least on one person's life. So I really appreciate you being here, and I want to make sure that if there's anything you want to promote or mention, feel free to do so, or anything maybe I left out.
Well, for parents out there that have teenage girls, I have a self love workshop. It's called Glowing Within. And Glowing Within, I love this workshop because I don't know about you, but growing up, I was bullied a lot. I feel like we all have got bullied one way or another, right? So I was bullied a lot, and I had, like I said, I wanted to fit in and everything, right? And I remember even like the friends that I have were not. good friends. Like even my own friends would beat me up. And now I know like hurt people hurt people. At the time I didn't quite get that. I didn't know why the girls would be so mean, but now I see it. I see they were in pain too. So of course they were going to cause pain, but because I wanted to fit in and I wanted other girls to like me, I would stick around. And that was like our teens are going through similar things like that. And even worse now more than ever because of social media. So now they're comparing themselves on social media and there's a lot of insecurities, anxiety, depression. And so that's why I created this program so that girls could discover that what is it when you say self love, what does it mean? Because a lot of times for me, I thought it was cliche at the time. But now I know self love means accepting who you are. Self love is having these boundaries when you know there's something toxic going on to walk away. Self love is also taking care of what's happening up here, your thoughts, not putting yourself down. So we teach girls about all of that and how to inspire one another. Because if when you accept the all parts of you, that's when you're able to shine. Because we all have a different glow, all of us, and it's very unique glow. But when we accept everything about us, that's when everything starts to, your light starts to shine even brighter. And then I feel that when we do that, and we allow ourselves to do that, we inspire other people to do the same. And then together we illuminate the world. So that's what the whole workshop is about, to really empower our teens to know that they are fully capable, they are beautiful, and that accepting all parts of you is key. It's extremely important. But how can we uplift one another? Because girls sometimes are very catty. Even at this age, I started noticing like, why do I have a distance with women? Why do I have a wall? And it came all the way trickled down when I was a kid. So I was like, no wonder I can't connect with women. No wonder I'm having a challenging time because I don't trust, right? So how can we inspire girls to and get them together where we can uplift them and empower them and see them as a sisterhood versus and when you see a girl doing something amazing, we cheer her on so she can keep on going. But how can we help each other? And that's what's powerful because back in the days, that's what they did in the tribes, all of that. That's what was happening. They would help each other. And that's what the whole workshop is about. So if you have any teenagers in Las Vegas, it's happening December 4th and 5th. Please join Glowing Within.
Okay, so that workshop in Las Vegas is only for young ladies, or that one is for co-ed?
Yes, that one is for teenage girls. We should have one for
Okay.
boys, huh? I feel like it too.
They probably need some. I know I probably needed something at age 14, 15, 16, 17. I was trying to fit in, trying to be cool, trying to feel like I had friends, and I'm sure I probably did some things that may even be considered illegal, trying to fit in. But to protect the guilty, we won't mention that too much. But when you're young, you could get influenced by other friends, and some of those friends could be troublemakers, wanting to ditch, wanting to go cause problems in the street. And yeah, I encourage young men to do jujitsu if they can.
Mhm.
Uh, that's for me is one of the most effective martial arts I have trained, and also it just gives you that self confidence that even if the guy's bigger than you, because jujitsu was made to protect the weak, not the strong, uh, you feel a confidence because I'm not like no UFC fighter or nothing, but I've choked out 260-pound men, big old guys like multiple times, and it wouldn't have been anything that I could normally do. It was all jujitsu. It's almost like it builds your confidence and takes over. So even for women too, I encourage young ladies too. As far as personal protection, those are maybe a lot of positions that guys would try and take advantage of. if they have a bad intention. So those positions can really come in handy in those critical times as far as self protection, like a triangle choke. Um, you guys can YouTube that or Google that, but you'll see that if a guy's trying to take advantage of a woman, the girl can just put him to sleep and walk away. So, uh,
That's
uh,
that's so important. All of that. I mean, with our workshops, we have athletes like come in like self defense. So we have people, different speakers that come in on these specific topics. So we have self defense, or we have different things like that. Some other times we'll have like this time we're gonna have like a self love coach. We're gonna have finger painting therapy, different things. But what you're talking about, jujitsu or any mixed martial arts, I think that's extremely powerful, especially in a young age. And as you're saying, to defend yourself from any type of harm, and especially for us young, like young women.
and then how you were mentioning that you feel that a lot of us have been bullied. If you kind of watch UFC fighting, a lot of those top fighters, you hear their story, like on Joe Rogan, and they were bullied, and they're some of the nicest people, but they're walking around like lethal weapons. Some of the jujitsu guys, I know everybody in the United States is kind of like accustomed to seeing buff guys and they're afraid of them, but you would see skinny little jujitsu guys who are like under 6 feet choking out those guys within seconds. So yeah, it's just such a great self confidence for youth. And I don't have anybody that I know in Las Vegas in jiu-jitsu, but as your business starts to grow and develop, I'll be sure to mention anyone I can that uh, especially youth coaches that maybe want to do some sort of self defense for the youth. I'll be sure to let you know.
Yeah, I'm very blessed because I do have like quite a few friends in the whole MMA world, and that's what we're talking about. That in the future, I do plan on creating a leadership program where it's for unisex boys and girls, and basically all the laws that our kids or teens need to know before they hit that adult world. You know, all the things, and self defense was a huge one, so teaching the boys and the girls how to tap into that.
And also, there's a book. It's called Verbal Judo, and it's excellent. It talks about using your mouth to defuse situations, so you don't have to fight. And
Mhm.
that's something that also, on the youth, I highly stress. When I was in high school, some guy was being bullied continuously, and he finally stood up for himself, and he got slammed on the floor and kicked in the head, and he died. And I'm
Wow.
like, yeah, it was a tragic. And so, one thing that I tell even like my nephews, like if anyone goes up to you on the street and says, like, what the fuck are you looking at? Say, oh man, that's a nice shirt. Where'd you get that shirt? It's
Yep.
really hard for someone to stay mad and want to fight you still if you're like, oh, where'd you get that shirt? So just having like verbal, like judo ready to go can diffuse a
I
situation.
like that. I'm gonna
And
look into that.
I definitely feel that it should be taught in actual high schools because that's where all the bullying's going on. So, um, yeah, that's a great book. Maybe you can look into it. And I wanted to thank you so much for being my guest. And uh, anyone that comes on, I like to always invite them on in the future so we can follow up and see how's it going. Um, so thank you everybody for listening in. The replay will be available immediately, and then I got some exciting news yesterday from Spotify. They approved me to get video. So as far as I know, I think Joe Rogan and maybe two other people are the only people with a video podcast. So now you can actually watch the videos of my podcast on Spotify,
No,
starting as of yesterday.
that's
And
amazing.
thank you. So your episode will be available. I'll let you know on YouTube, Fireside, of course, immediately, exclusively, and then on Spotify. So I wanted to thank everybody for their support as I'm getting more opportunities through my podcast journey. And meeting and getting to know better and great guests. So thank you so much for joining me, Karen. I look forward to having you on in the future. Thank you, everybody, for listening in the audience and on the podcast. This is Coach Ray Z. Join me tomorrow as I have Coach Vabel, and he is an ATG coach who is a high school teacher, actually, I think in San Diego. And he's like in his 50s, and he's I've heard him speak a few times because I'm in the same training group with him, and the lessons he's learned in teaching high school, it's really interesting. And I'm gonna bring up a story that I heard him talk about. Um, him just kind of yelling at some kid in the gym because he wasn't wearing his gym shoes, and he kicked him out. And then I guess he did it again, and then the third time he finally told him he kicked him out, and that kid ended up committing suicide later that day. It wasn't because of what he told them, but he mentions that that really kind of changed his whole coaching and approach to youth and thinking about, man, maybe if I would have said something different that day instead of being so harsh on my program. So I want to ask him about that because when he did his presentation, I was in another training class and I didn't get to finish the end. But yeah, he's a really good guy. So join me tomorrow at 6 p.m. Pacific time zone. And thank you everybody once again for joining. This is Coach Ray Z with my guest Karen. Everyone have a good night, good morning, or good
Buenas noches.
evening,
Thank you.
wherever you are.
Bye.